But you know, and it's been a sustained campaign of terror towards African Americans, and let's not ignore that. And I oppose any people of the diaspora that too try to downplay the severity of the racial terror that African Americans have experienced from 1776 onwards.
I mean, you know what? I don't downplay it. What I don't like is these separatists that almost try to say nobody's been
they've I think they've been infiltrated, or they're misinformed and they're infiltrated. And I think in some of their cases, there's an element of reactive resentment where they feel like we look down upon them, which has never made sense to me, because when I would go places like Brooklyn and spend my summers there, all the African American people I saw as African American, have Caribbean roots.
Yeah.
Some of the most prominent African Americans that have carried and purported the culture around the world and given the most positive outlook towards African Americans, like they deserve, are Caribbean people. Stokely Carmichael, is from Trinidad. Malcolm X is from Grenada. Biggie Smalls is from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mad. It is mad.
Cool Herc is from Jamaica. Like LL Cool J said, his dad is from Barbados. Like, you know, it's the list goes on and on. Like, and the idea, like people like Haitian Jack, Wyclef Jean, like Pop Smoke, all these guys have got, like, you know, Caribbean. Vince Staples, his family from Haiti as well. This idea of us being separate, I don't really go for it. I generally don't really feed into people who are feeding into this ADOS, FBA narrative where they see themselves as having a separate black experience to the rest of the diaspora, or that you're not getting reparations, we're getting reparations. Listen, I'd love for you lot to get reparations, but we're not standing in the way of that.
Yeah, the reparations conversation's long, because I don't know if they would even use the reparations. Largely, I'm not saying all Black Americans, but I think just the way that Black American culture is, I don't know if they would spend it in a way that would benefit them long term. So it's just.
I mean, I would say it's not gonna happen, guys, because what people need to understand is when you do try to think about how could any decent human being levy the brutality and torture towards millions of people in the way they have done towards Africans, and the answer to that is money. The capitalist world in which we have to live and thrive in was created by African Americans. The reason why America has money and it's a land of milk and honey and the American dream, all these people went to experience, is because of us. It's always been that way. And that is their justification for their insane violence and brutality, is because America was founded by a bunch of white Freemasons who did not want to be controlled by a king and pay taxes to King George. And so what they did, was it King Richard? I don't know. I don't care about English history because I'm not English. But they basically, the English and the French fought, and then the English controlled the colonies in America. Then the Americans had their Revolutionary War, because they wanted to control their own destinies. And then they decided that they were going to kidnap African people to make it happen, because all the English people or the European people and all the Asian people that kept kidnapping kept dropping dead in the plantations, on the fields, and they couldn't handle the heat and the work. And so they began kidnapping Africans and then created a narrative about us being free of a human being to justify their exploitation. And then they had the Industrial Revolution. And today, and that's the thing, how we can act like we're different. Today's Industrial Revolution is the tech revolution. There is no tech industry without the Congo. So they're doing the same, because they don't have to kidnap us now, because they can just
But they're running out of ways. They're running out.
They are running out of ways. Like, that's why they're all panicking now. They're panicking.
And this brings me to my other thing, because, you know, when we talk about the tariffs and stuff like that, I've heard people talk about Trump and his intentions and the things that he's trying to achieve. And one guy, he's an American economist, talking about, he thinks that Trump is trying to crush the American dollar. He's trying to basically do away with it. And I actually have a different perspective. I think Trump, along with a lot of the world's leaders, realize and recognize that they're running out of ways to just colonize the world, and that whole like new world order, globalization agenda that they were trying to achieve is nigh on impossible. So everyone's now retreating back to their quarters,
Mm.
and Trump is looking after the US's their own agendas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whatever they need to do, he's looking after what they need to do.
Isolationist, yeah, and just lock him.
Yeah,
He's building a bigger wall.
yes, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why he wants to annex somewhere like Greenland, because then that's the resources.
And Ukraine.
And well, there's you.
Or it sounds like it's like Russia can get Ukraine. You man get these resources, and Greenland is our thing.
They need to implement these trade deals now. If they're gonna get anywhere outside of the US borders, they need to be a bit more clever in structuring it and positioning themselves to do so. Because no longer can you just say, "Yeah, we're just gonna displace a country. We're gonna turn this leader against this leader, and then we're gonna start a war."
People are hip to the game now.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? People
absolutely.
are cutting it on,
Yep.
and they realize exactly what's happening. And especially when you look at what's going on in the Sahel region with Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and now that Senegal have also expelled the French powers from their country as well, and they have access to the sea, which when you connect that particular landmass together, it means you can do trade, you can get access to the sea. You know what I mean? This is a time of absolute it's a time of African power in that region, especially. Yeah, I'm showing you. So it means that no longer can they just Americans, UK, they can't just go around busting the world like they have been.
And who knows what that can lead to? Starts off with the Sahel region, moves further down sub-Saharan Africa. Hopefully we get to South Central, and then we start talking about that area of the Congo and Rwanda. And then see what one. And then
unless obviously and again I said it on the last podcast, Ibrahim Traore needs to get down to Congo, speak to their government and their prime minister.
And what here is starting to pattern.
Stop engaging with the American government about swapping resources for defense, because they will never act in the benefit or to the benefit of the people of the Congo.
And there's not just that. You're absolutely right. The leverage that the Congo has. There's no amount of arms they could get. They'd have to hand over their whole military industrial complex.
Right.
Because without the cobalt, without the mining, you can't run no missile guidance systems. You can't run no drones. You can't run no surveillance. You're done out here.
I just wish that I don't know how educated. I mean, this sounds like I'm disrespecting leaders of a country. I don't lead a country, but it makes me think, how do you not know what you have underneath your feet, where you are quickly readily able to just go and say to Trump, okay. And this is the thing, while I still back Trump, don't get me wrong, because all of these things need to play out, in my opinion. But there are little things that I didn't account for. And one of the things in terms of like the tariffs, and this is not me backtracking, by the way, this is like, I'm still on it. But the thing is, the tariffs is now, it means that, and like the borders and the way that they're structuring things in America means that there's less employment in China for the Chinese people. Now, historically, the Chinese have always sent their shittiest people to Africa to work. You get what I mean? And those shit people do things like pollute major rivers that then kill people in major
and destroy the whole river. Yeah,
you get me? Destroy the river and certain ecosystem and whatnot that people have been thriving on for hundreds of years. So my point is this: those African leaders also need to be considerate of what's going on with the tariffs, because it does affect them. You get what I mean? Because the amount of muck that some of the Chinese workers have dumped into that major Zambian river is
so acidified. It's like they didn't.
But then the thing is, you can expect, while there is less, because there's so many people, like China is overpopulated. So the less employment that they have in their own country, the more you can find them in places like Africa. What China have done successfully is what I would call financial colonization, and they've not just done it in America, in Africa. They've done it in the Caribbean as well. They go to the Caribbean and say, "We'll make this major road, and we'll bring our people
under this airport and stuff as well.
Airport and this, that, rare. We'll bring a fleet of cars and rare. And because we are, and when I say we, in the context, when I say we, I mean in those countries, whether it be Caribbean or Africa, we are we don't have the facilities, we don't have these niceties, we don't have the fleet of cars, we don't have the roads and stuff like that. So it almost feels
which is has been engineered. But I read somewhere there's an African country now that's beginning an automotive program.
yeah, it's Burkina Faso.
That's what I'm saying. The first time that we could start getting African cars.
So, my point is, because it's been this way for so long, and instead of us creating our own, historically, we like to get people to create it for us.
Do we all have our plans to make stuff our own been thwarted by other powers?
Well, there's that too.
Because I feel like a lot of time it's not like we just can't bother. It's that, lithium, rubber, all these things are based on the continent, whether it's metals and stuff. So the resources for any automotive industry, again, depend on the resources that are on the continent. It's just that there are too many interests that, it's just divide and conquer has never been this demonstrated better than it has done on the continent, being divided along colonial lines. So, I mean, we're in a very interesting time of flux right now. We just have to hope, that Ibrahim Traore is which he looks like he is going to be a catalyst alongside a lot of other African leaders who start thinking, yeah, well, they can't really do nothing to us. What can they do really? If we say lock off and you can't take our resources, what can they do?
And the landmass is so big, bro. There's so much space for us to go back, you get me, and lend our brains to a developing space. When you look at what Trump and that are doing in Gaza as well, I mean, I've seen him in an interview today with sitting next to Bibi Netanyahu, which, in my opinion, he kind of epitomizes the devil, man.
You got to look at that. That's somebody who has been the longest serving leader of Israel in the nation's short history, and he was supposed to be going in jail.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing are the actions of a desperate man who knows when he comes to the end of his little campaign of genocide, he will be going jail, and he don't want that.
I don't think he'll go jail.
Well, he won't go jail in Israel, but if he goes anywhere else other than Hungary or the US, he might find himself in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure, but he won't go anywhere else where he will find himself in trouble, because this guy is backed by the US. And considering the remarks of Trump when they were in that interview that I saw, Trump described Gaza as an incredible piece of real estate,
which is like,
so I mean, I would love to see what these guys quantify as ethnic cleansing. Like, I would love to see what their definition of ethnic cleansing is, like, because by its very definition, I think you've just implemented that. And then talking about, surrounding countries of the Gaza Strip taking in the Gazans, like, to say they're just like, okay, we've gotten rid of them now, but we're gonna make it into some. He called it a free zone, like a beautiful free zone where people can come and live and trade and this and that. Blah, blah, blah.
Which people?
No mention of the Gazans that have been displaced from this space,
or why they weren't able to. If it's prime real estate, why couldn't the people that were living there in the first place enjoy that? Why are the people that are already living there not able to go near the sea or have chocolate or antibiotics or collect rainwater? Why has that not been allowed? If it's such a free zone, is the question.
It's like absolute craziness, and it just shows you what everybody was marching about, protesting about, being cancelled for saying, on all sorts of platforms. They were right.
I mean, it's not a surprise to anybody. I think that, as this asymmetrical conflict and this, as everybody outside of Hungary, Argentina, and Israel and the US refers to it as a genocide continues, we are seeing more and more contradictions, more and more revelations that the accusations made by the Zionist government of Israel are more like confessions, and we're seeing more of that all the time. And I'm sorry, but like, even if you want to move away from the indescribable atrocities that have been visited upon the Palestinian population, Israel has killed they've killed 14 paramedics in the week just gone. They killed 3 British aid workers who had been in contact with the IDF while they were providing relief. They've killed journalists. They've killed children. They've killed doctors. They've killed people. They've killed activists. and bulldozed them.
Remember what I said to you earlier. It's mad what people would do when they don't realize you're looking. So
Exactly, that's the stuff we're looking about.
But this is the thing. For ages, when people supporting the Gazans have been leveling these accusations on the IDF, they've always turned around and says, no, we're not doing this, our hands are clean, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Or going as far as to say, well, you know, the Hamas are living amongst them or hiding amongst them, so this is the reasons why we need to go.
Which is so interesting, because who created Hamas? I know exactly who did. Bibi Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu himself credits himself with creating Hamas. He created Hamas in 1987, where I was 6, by the way, for those of you who claim that I'm a member of Hamas. You know who you are.
I'm not that old.
Right. Well, I was a youth. I was a youth when they was created, and they were created because they did not want for there to be a secular political entity that represented the interests of all Palestinians, because people have the idea, a lot of people still don't know about this conflict, and people feel that Palestine is just a place where Islamic fundamentalist terrorists reside. But Palestine is where Jesus comes from. Bethlehem is in Palestine. Galilee is in Palestine. So that's where Jesus was born. And so there is a large contingent of Christians, as well as secular people who do not follow Islam in Palestine, who have also been killed, tortured, raped, ethnically cleansed. And so they don't align with Hamas, because Hamas is an Islamic group. So to suggest that all of the people that have been victims of Hamas using people as human shields or hiding in tunnels and all the other stuff they've made up, it's strange that Christians have been equally brutalized. Just like in Iraq, where they were like, these Muslims in Iraq hate our freedom. There were over 100,000 Christians living in Iraq before the US invaded, and they were all displaced. And guess who? And unsurprisingly, it was the IDF that supplied America with the intelligence that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which they never ever found in the end. I'm losing words to describe what we're seeing here. People have forgotten that there is billions of natural oil off the coast of Palestine, and people have, every single international humanitarian organization, from UNICEF to Oxfam to World Hunger Foundation, like you name them, to the International Criminal Court, to the International Court of Justice, have all contextualized what we're seeing, if you even have the stomach to still see this shit, as a genocide. And there's only a few people that are in denial of that. And when we talk about all this flux that's taking place in various countries in the world, the Western powers that are backing the Israeli occupation, you lot might be, attaching yourself to
we spoke about this briefly, and one of the things I said to you is I feel sorry for your ordinary, God-fearing, just wanting to live and let live Jew.
Yeah.
Because for all the sins of a Bibi Netanyahu and the genocide that they're committing across, like the atrocities they're committing in Palestine, a lot of these Jews are going to suffer because of the opinions of everyone else. And the thing is, you cannot, there comes to a space, there comes to a time where you cannot deny what is happening here.
Like, most people are past that point.
And this is the thing. I feel like because you've been leaned into this space for a while. I'm the sort of person that it takes a while to get me. Anything from the news to advertisements, like if you get me, then I would consider that getting a large part of like people that are not as leaned in. Then you get what I'm showing you. This is where, if you're now able to, not to say that I wasn't convinced before, what I'm saying, it's like the whole Badenoch thing. You know what I mean? You're surprised that I'm only just getting into it now. You get what I'm showing you? It's because I don't listen to certain noises. You get me? So I say that to say, the fact that even I now am starting to see there is no excuse for what you're doing. Whereas before, considering myself maybe just right of center. Yeah.
And a lot of people would have been on the fence because you'd have been like, I'm not aware of that conflict that's been going on for time.
Right.
I've got, trying to work out stuff in my own community.
Right.
So these conflicts take place all over the world. Why stop there? There's this happening there, this happening there. There's sectarian violence here, so it's hard to keep track. And I completely understand that. Trust me, I'm somebody I work in comedy, where there is a large contingent of Jewish people working in comedy, whether it's as comics themselves, producers, execs. The entertainment industry has an overrepresentation of Jewish people in the same way that like the NBA has an overrepresentation of African Americans. It is what it is. Now, if you had spoken to me maybe 5 years ago, I would have been someone who's been like, based on the experience of the Holocaust that Jews had to endure, of course they should have a place where they can keep safe, and understood the necessity for Israel to exist. But you see, when you start to scratch the surface, then you start to learn a lot more about what's going on here. This is not what I've been told. I've already had my narrative suppressed. I've had opportunities taken away from me. I've had people survey my family. I had people watching my family for over 2 months, thinking I wouldn't notice them because they've not worked in comedy for years. They've tried to take pictures of my child, and they pushed me to the point where I had to switch and let people know, if you come near my family, I'm going to fucking kill you. And what they did is contextualize that as me making death threats to Jewish people, even though I never even used the term. Now, this happened on social media. Social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook both come under the umbrella of Meta, as well as WhatsApp. That is owned by Mark Zuckerberg, who himself is a Jewish man. Now, if I had made any negative comments about the Jewish community on any of those social media platforms, the first thing that would happen is that my accounts would be suspended, or at the very least, I would receive a warning. None of those things happened. So even Meta did not see that I had tried to attack or make any threats towards the Jewish community. The next day, I received over 800 messages threatening me and my family, accusing me of being a terrorist. Yeah. Dropped from my agent, dropped from my manager, dropped from my tour, or TV engagements cancelled. 95% of all gigs or any work I have within the UK comedy circuit cancelled. I've had my name put as a terrorist on IMDb, on Deadline, on Yahoo, Apple News, any outlet with connections to Zionism, they have categorized me as a terrorist for telling somebody to stay away from my family or I'll fuck them up. What's even crazier about the whole thing is that now I'm cancelled because I'm supposedly a terrorist. So they got the police involved.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking, well, I'm cooked. Even the police was like, why are we here?
I mean,
and if you had told me that the police would be like, they've gone too deep on you, pause. If you had told me that I'd be in a police station with the police taking my side, I would have never believed you. But even the police were like, I don't understand why this has escalated to the point it's escalated. Why, why is your name in America being called a terrorist?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm well aware of what it comes down to, because like I said, I've worked with Jewish comedians from the beginning of my career. The first charity gig I ever did was for a Jewish charity. I had a podcast before called Question Everything. Worked with a Jewish producer for 8 years. Yeah. But what happened was, when you start looking into this, I'm starting to see, if you lot are being victims of terrorism, why are you lot making TikToks eating burgers on the front line while people in Gaza are starving?
I mean, further to that, this is the thing. I'll say two things. One, it's interesting how the Jewish community, and maybe an example that we as a black community could take, it's interesting that if you say anything about them, and even when it's facts, like when Wiley said about, the Jewish community controlling the entertainment industry, that is just a fact. Most of the people, like I don't know the percentages, so I may be wrong here, but I'd say at least 80% of the people that control the way the media industry works right now, today, in the Western Hemisphere, they are Jews, and most of the people under that structure placate to whatever Jewish agenda that is going on.
But see, this is the problem though, because...
But no, here, let me finish this.
The
point being is, we could do with the same protections within our own community. You get what I mean? If you then are like, as Kanye puts it, wearing our pain, or, profiting our pain, where we should be able to come together as a community and protect ourselves in the same way, protect our culture in the same way, so that we could be the primary beneficiaries.
Which is fair, but you've got to be careful when you use the term Jews, because there are black Jews. So you've got black Jews, and I don't mean like I'm not talking about conspiracy theory. There are black Jews in Ethiopia, Mizrahi Jews. They are from the tribe Mizrahi.
and I'm gonna say this, this is gonna be coded language. As a Rasta man, we like when it
Yeah,
comes
you know,
to
yeah,
Jew
exactly.
and Jew, you get me? Like
Yep.
we know who we're talking about.
Yep.
So what I'm talking about is the Jews that we're
I know, but I'm saying the term pertains to people that follow Judaism. That's the religion. So you have to believe in a god,
yeah.
and you know, eat kosher food, observe Shabbat.
Yeah.
You know will celebrate or observe Passover and Yom Kippur, and you know you may. Whereas your ethnicity of being Jewish, that means that can vary because Ashkenazi Jews will be European,
Yeah.
Sephardic Jews will be from the Mediterranean and some parts of North Africa, and Mizrahi Jews will also be from North Africa as well as sub-Saharan Africa, because you've also got Ugandan Jews. So I've only started to make to do the research because I didn't want to be on no ignorant thing, but now, then I started seeing like ideas that there is a hierarchy of how certain Jews are treated and how certain people are given right of return, all the rest of it. And I didn't know all of this until I was all cancelled and stuff like that as well. But yeah, for me, I'm saying that it's like, this is getting to the point where now I'm seeing things like certain Jewish people like Norman Finkelstein, who's been like he's spoken about these issues for years, and people like Noam Chomsky, they're being looked down upon. Like I feel like for a long time there has been definitely a lot of organization and united front from the Jewish community, which I've said the diaspora could definitely learn from. But now it does not seem that way. There seems to be a clear divide between a lot of Jewish people who do not agree with what's taking place in Israel right now, and with good reason, because people who have largely been defined by a global atrocity where people have tried to systematically erase these people cannot get behind seeing that happen to other people.
Yeah, and it's a human thing,
and it's a human thing.
It's not black, white, whatever. It's a you know, Jewish, non-Jewish, what kind of Jew you are. It's a human thing, and some people are just, I think, non-human enough to be able to commit and see these atrocities happen and be happy with it, be okay with it.
There is no way what we are seeing taking place in Gaza, in Rafah, in Jabalia, in you know, West Bank, and a lot of these places I've mentioned do not have a contingent of Hamas there.
I mean, I don't want to get off this conversation quickly because we've got other things to discuss.
Yeah.
That's
but I just think that the idea that people can do this madness and come home and everything's going to be normal.
Yeah, I would say, and again, like I think there's a lot of Jews that don't agree with what's going on.
No, of course not.
Are gonna suffer
of
because
course
it's
not.
like it's a human.
And that's
thing.
one of the biggest things, is that people are going to weaponize what's happening. And you can see it in comments whenever you see these reports, like more and more comments of people being more anti-Semitic. And like you said, it's going to be the workaday, normal Jewish communities that have lived alongside in harmony with a number of different groups, whether they're Muslims, whether they're black people, whether they're Asians, and Jewish people, and form a global minority.
What Dane is saying is we are not anti-Semitic. We're just not down for the atrocities being committed
by anybody,
and
by anybody,
by anyone. And that goes to my point. Yeah, when you this, I'm gonna put this very simply so people understand what's going on here. Right, they have gone into Gaza. They have used the Hamas card to decimate the place, displace all the Gazans, and then now Trump and what's his name, Bibi Netanyahu are talking about turning Gaza into a safe zone that is only going to be occupied by people that they want to occupy the land. These Gazans are now being forced to move into other countries, and other countries are talking about taking them on. Now, I don't know what kind of deals that they've got in place, but they did mention that countries that they've spoken to that are looking to take on these guys. And where, if you look back 6 months ago, even Egypt was saying, we're not taking them. There was a lot of surrounding countries and a lot of Jews that were supporting Bibi Netanyahu and the whole IDF movement. They were all like saying, well, if the Gazans are not that bad, why are, Iran not taking them? Why is this country not taking them? Why is that country not taking them? And it's like, well, we all just watched you just go in there and rob their house and then kick them out, and we're supposed to take them in. That's like, this is a crime. This is what you're doing. Crime. You get what I mean? But I say all that to say, my interests are always us first. As anyone, if you're Gazan, if you're Muslim, I understand your interest will be you first. My interest is me and my community first. You get what I mean? So when I look at what they're doing there, and I'm seeing how they've gone and displaced so many people, or the whole of Gaza, you know what I mean? And then they're going to turn it into a safe place for them. I look at places like Congo and what's going on with Rwanda and the M24. You get what I mean? And you've got one side funded by European powers, and then the other side cozying up to America for defense. And I've mentioned this before, but I'm stressing the point. The point being is we need to understand how this soft power now is working and how it's insidiously working itself. We are seeing what's going on in Gaza work itself into Africa in ways that it doesn't need to. So we just need to be aware of that. And I will say again, Ibrahim Traore, if you ever, or somebody ever if this even gets an earshot of you, get down to Congo and make sure that America don't just slide in nicely. You get me? So that's what I'll say with that. Anything you want to say on that before we move on?
Yeah, I just think it's just this cannot continue, and people keep turning a blind eye, because where does this end? Like I'm like,
it doesn't end, bro. I'll tell you when it ends. It ends with what they're saying. You get what I mean? What we as a community, and especially as a black community, need to understand is it cannot happen in Africa. That's where.
Well, they were going to put it in Uganda before.
Yeah, they were gonna put it in Uganda, but this is the whole thing.
And Idi Amin was like, I wouldn't do that shit if I were you.
But this is the thing, and then they turned him in. What I mean, that's another conversation for another day. I just I'm not even gonna label the point. You got my point. You get me. The only thing I would say, the last thing I would say on that is, this is to my point when I was talking about, it's interesting what people would do when you can't see that, or they think you can't see them. It's when the IDF soldiers in Gaza, they did a traffic stop, stopped the ambulance, shut up the ambulance, and creating a mass grave and put everyone in it, including I can't remember the charity, one of those
Red Crescent.
Red
Crescent workers.
Was it Red Crescent? I can't remember.
Yeah, it might have been was it Red Crescent workers? But it was to say medics and, like, paramedics
and charity workers and stuff like that. They killed them all and put them into a mass grave. Now, they didn't know that they were being filmed.
Also, they crushed their cars and buried them as well.
Or that too, you know what I mean? So when the mass grave is being discovered, it was shown that they found a phone in one of the guy's pockets that actually filmed the beginning of the attack. You get what I'm saying? So this is I'm only saying this and raising it to say that every time they say, no, this is not us, we wouldn't do this, they've been filmed doing it. And not like this for me was more, this was another moment. Like, obviously you see certain things, but this was kind of like, this is true UGC, user generated content. Like, this is someone just taking out their phone and filming and then being killed, and they didn't know, the IDF soldiers didn't know that this was happening. So we know what going. You get what I'm showing you? That's all I'm saying. But moving on, Terrence Howard. I don't know if you've seen this interview. We spoke briefly about it, but he was on a podcast earlier on this week. And Terrence Howard is like a science whiz. He talks about the universe and all kind of different things. He's now...
It's mad how he in the first Iron Man, he was Rhodey.
Yeah.
Now he's doing the Tony Stark talking.
Now, you know what? Like, I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm not a fan.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he, like, for me, he's say some questionable things, and I think he's placating to a certain side, but I won't go into that. In the way that Terrence Howard talks, sometimes it can be similar to Neil deGrasse Tyson sometimes, but he's obviously got his own cadence. It seems to me like, I mean, I'm not as intelligent in that space as he is, like, so I wouldn't question what he's saying, but I would say this much: a lot of it sounds like sense. But he did flip the switch a little bit on this podcast, where he started talking about having his man card and keeping his man card, and he related it heavily to the P. Diddy situation and how P. Diddy, Terrence Howard's manager basically said that P. Diddy was trying to have relations with him.
With the manager or with Terrence?
No, with Terrence.
Dang.
And that basically P. Diddy had invited Terrence Howard to his house multiple times, and Terrence was like, the geezer used to just watch me. I'd come to his house to do like, he wanted to get trained up on acting and blah 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 or whatever, and my man was just watching me, weren't really doing it, and then, you know, after a couple of occasions of going to his house, he's basically saying that yeah, like, rah, this is just weird. Why am I going to my man's yard again? Like, what's the deal? And essentially, the manager said to him, well, rah, my man wants to deal with you. Pause. You get me? Now, I say that to say, yeah, because there's gonna be themes across this podcast that I'm going to keep laboring, for the simple fact that when it comes to this industry, the media industry, yeah, there are a lot of skullduggerous things going on, yeah. And as I said to you before, I said it on the last podcast, you will go into a room, shining a man's shoes, and next week you'll be shining something else.
Damn.
People our youngers in the industry need to understand that these things are real. These things happen. You get what I mean? Like, you know, Jamelia was on a podcast about a month ago, and she spoke about a situation where a music industry exec was like, what are you prepared to do to go to the next level? She also spoke about a young female artist that when she said no, she was told, and I'm going to paraphrase, because I can't remember exactly what she said, but she basically was saying that the other female artist was active in the industry, and Jamelia was told, like, yeah, my girl's done it. Like, this is the way you improve your stock. You get me?
I wonder who it was.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, yeah, it's mad because a lot of these industry.
Would I be surprised if you told me?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean,
let us know what you think in the comments.
Probably not. But this is the thing. I don't know if this particular person is widely known anyway. You get what I'm showing you. So the thing, you know what's mad? There's a lot of the stuff that goes on in the industry that people in this industry are privy to, but we've also normalized to a large degree. You get what I'm showing you? So it's like, oh, that's just the way it goes. But no one really talks about it. And I'm guessing the only people that talk about it are the people that are engaging in it, because, like, from my perspective, who have never shined anything for anyone, yeah, I don't get to see behind that curtain because I'm not shining nothing. You get what I'm showing you? Like, and these things are this is just real, this is a fact. So I'm stressing the point because I feel like I just don't want to see another generation of young people in our community being lost to the shining of objects in return for fame and money. Better you just go and play your trade in...
I mean, it's hard though, because now the direct thing of sex work is a lot more normalized. And I mean, I'm not judging sex workers, but so far as it being mainstream, that's become a lot more normalized in that, like, you know, with the emergence of like OnlyFans, you're seeing like soap actresses and former like film actresses and people, and a lot of the time, a lot of these predominantly women, because I can't really think of any men, a lot of them are like, I make more money on OnlyFans than I would have made being a recording artist or being an actress. And I'm not judging them, but I'm not sure what kind of message it sends. So for all of the exchanging of sexual favors, is it now that people are just going to be like, well, I'll just sell it myself? Why do I have to wait until some executive puts it on you when I can just make money selling my own body? But I'm not sure if that isn't another problem. I mean, that could be another problem in itself.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these things, especially when you talk about OnlyFans, a lot of these things have just, like, for me, an amplification of what's already happening. Especially when you introduce digital space to sex working, prostitution, all these sort of things. People are going to find ways to exploit it exploit themselves for money in different ways. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Further their brand in different ways for money. So it's not surprising that these things are happening to me. We shouldn't be surprised to see the way that OnlyFans is really revolutionizing sex work. I mean, I've heard reports that they're trying to kind of include other facets of exploitation.
And also on points that, they're trying to make it like it's supposed to work like a direct to consumer platform where the content, for content rather than just adult content. It's all types of content. People got comedy shows on there, and
Have they?
music. Yeah, some
On
people do.
OnlyFans?
Yeah,
I mean, they need to do something with the. I mean, I'm no expert in this area, but they would need to do something with the coloring of the logo, because
agreed.
It's the coloring and the styling of the logo, because it is now synonymous with sex working.
I mean, the problem is that the demographic who they have nurtured for so long, even if they do see somebody who might be a talented person, they're going to be like, well, but what does that mouth do? Because that's the culture that's been nurtured within that space.
And you know what? I actually wonder how much the shareholders of OnlyFans really care, because it makes money.
Loads of money.
So
it's like I think like CEO gets like 1.5% of every transaction that takes place on there.
So it makes me wonder, like, is there an executive or a shareholder in OnlyFans that thinks, you know what, I'm really concerned about turning down the level of sexual content and adult content on
I'm sure there is. And then someone goes, did you not see this chart and money? It's going upwards. That means money. I understand your concerns, but I need you to understand the money we're making is enough. Pure money.
And so, I mean, all of that, right? But I want to zero in on one thing that Terrence Howard said about his man card and the importance of being a man. And as we've spoken about it a few times about, you know, masculinity being conflated with toxic masculinity, and in the space of getting into the media industry and seeing what men are willing to do for £1 or $1, we just need to be more aware of how we are conducting ourselves and the long-term ramifications of that. Because one thing I've seen across social media largely, and very lately as well, is a lot of black women on social media complaining about black men and where they're falling short. Now, I'm not one of those people that says, every man should earn more than their woman or their, you know, spouse or their counterpart, female counterpart. But there's a certain way that you can behave and act as a man that can enable a woman to be a woman. You get what I'm showing you? And I feel like where our leaders are in our community, we need to be more privy to this and foster spaces where our black men in particular can learn from us and learn to be proper men. So there's things that we're going to be doing as we develop this podcast to kind of facilitate spaces for disillusioned or men that don't have any, or young men that don't have any positive role models.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention that because I see it as an increasing problem across the internet space, and it's concerning.
Yeah, well, I guess the solution is that we notify people that you can have a success in the entertainment industry without being on your knees. And it might not be the immediate success you have right away, but, you know, at the end of the day, even if you are somebody who feels that you got to do something that compromises your principles to get a lot of money, that money's just going to go to therapy and drugs. So you might as well hold on to your dignity, because all you'll be doing is drink away the pain if you get violated, or having to see a therapist somewhere down the line, or having to take meds because your body and your mind are no longer in sync because of the toxicity that you've had to be around. So sometimes the long game is worth it. So that is the solution, I would say, is to, you know, go with your instincts and think about, if you've got to talk about your journey to other people, if you would be comfortable talking about the things you went through and still feel like you could still have your self-respect. Because trust me, there is no amount of money that will be able to buy that back if you allowed it to be compromised just for the sake of £1 or $1.
See it there.
So,
you know what I mean? And if you need any like examples, I mean, again, I sound like a Ibrahim Traore stan. But I gotta say, like, he's impressive.
It's been a long time since we've been able to have a African leader to be excited about. So
you get me? Like,
listen.
Yeah, for real. Because I can't remember in my lifetime. All right, I don't know what it feels to have a Malcolm X.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I don't know what it feels to have a Martin Luther King or
The Garvey.
a Garvey.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Garvey. Like, them man there, I don't know what it feel like. I feel like Ibrahim Traore is getting close to that.
I hear it. I hear it.
And it's creating a very interesting space because normally what comes with this is defamation.
Mhm.
After defamation, overhauling and killing. You get what I'm showing you? Like,
Mhm.
that's what normally comes. Now, we know that they've tried to kill Ibrahim Traore on a number of occasions.
Number of occasions.
You get me? So it's interesting to see what's going to happen.
Especially because he just recently paid off Burkina Faso's national debt.
Oh,
So he's
yeah.
clean
yeah.
in the black.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine.
Pun intended.
Yeah, imagine that. And you know the wickedest thing is, this is the wickedest thing, as you know, when you're looking at that grand scale, money's not real in it.
Yeah.
So that money is just
No more IMF debt.
like, you get what I mean? It's just
bank
it's
or central
worthless,
bank debt.
really.
Yeah, it's
like that is
you can't do nothing to him.
money is worth money's worth
What we
is
attribute
to the extent that we believe in it.
Yeah.
And at that level, they all know this is nothing but an ethereal way to control population and masses.
Right. And they were prepared to kill millions of us to make sure we believed it, because if you didn't, you would be killed. But now, you know, people are starting to come out of that what's the word I'm looking for? That spell. It's not working like it used to. So yeah, we're very excited about what happens next in Burkina Faso and all of the other aligned countries. Who knows? But interesting times to be in, so you have to make sure you are minding your business. You get me?
See it there? And with that, we'll come to a close. Again, you can find us on MYB_pod UK across all platforms. You can find Index nowhere, and you can find Dane.
Yeah, you can find me on all platforms. Just type in Dane Baptiste. Check out my content on YouTube and the other socials, and look out for live gigs. And yeah, come holler. But yeah, we're here for you lot, making sure that we mind our business as a community. And yeah.